Looks pretty good in here. Oh, you want to see? Stay tuned and check it out. What's going on, you guys? Welcome back. So, the trunk door is fully open. So you know what that means. We're in the home stretch. You get to see what the trunk finally looks like, the big reveal, after all that work I put into it. And before we get into that, just want to kind of take a moment to remind you guys, if you have not subscribed already, or if you're new to the channel, go ahead and take a moment and hit that subscribe button. And don't forget that notification bell, so you get notified when I upload a video and you don't miss a single episode. So without further ado, let's go into the final steps I took before I called this trunk fully reborn. And then we get to see what the trunk looks like today.
In the last video, we left off with the floor needing the carpeting. I had decided with getting a glue down type found at Home Depot. Here's a sample. I really like this carpet. On either side, in front of the hinge cases, there was a space that needed to be filled in order for the carpet to be nice and flat. So I decided to cut some filler pieces as shown in these photos. I wanted a little red to bring the color of the car into the trunk. Not just any red, but the red I painted my car with. So the side panels and the back door panel will end up having red accent panels. For the back door, I wanted the Chevy emblem and a little something under the emblem to give it some sort of a design. For the side panels, I just wanted to outline the shape of the side area. Really simple. The material used for these panels were 1/4" MDF. Notice all the holes? The holes are meant for screws, but the screws will not be seen in the final product. The holes are countersunk and Bondo was applied to hide them. With a mouth sander, I just sanded off the excess Bondo to make it smooth. I sprayed 4 coats of epoxy primer, nice and heavy. The plan is to make these nice and straight. Then I sanded them till they were smooth. Base coat, clear coat, next. I started with the rear parts of the accent panels. I laid down 3 coats, then I flipped them over. Mixed up some more Velocity Red and hit the panels. After flashing, I gave them 3 coats of clear. I will cut and buff these panels. After they were cured, I wet sanded all the accent panels with 2000 grit sandpaper to remove all minor imperfections. Then buffed them out to a beautiful shine. Now it's time for the carpet. To make it easy, I made a template of the floor. Then transferred my template to my carpet.
Well, there you have it. All the steps it took to complete this custom trunk / storage compartment idea that I had back in 2012. Now, this trunk was fully completed back in 2014, and it was a lot of work. I'm not gonna lie, it was a lot of work, a lot of planning. I did make a lot of mistakes during the process of actually building this. I had to make things over again, things like that. But it was definitely worth it. I mean, 5 years of use, because again, this was made back in 2014, and definitely can say, now that we're in the future, it was worth it. It serves its purpose exactly how I would like it. It protects everything, and of course, it looks nice. So let's get you guys looking at the trunk. I'm gonna turn the camera around, and well, you guys let me know what you think. So here's the finished trunk. Trying to get a nice view. Now I'm using a big old shop light to get the lighting in here, because obviously everything is black and I needed to get as much light as possible. So there's a towel there, and that's only to prevent, because there's a chrome piece that goes there for the window molding, and it's giving me a lot of glare. So I put that towel, in case you guys are wondering why that towel's there, put that there so I don't have any glare coming into the camera. So that's basically the trunk. So as you can see there, that's the finished product. So we have a panel here, accent panel here, that is painted the same color as the car, as you can see. And we have another one over here. And then we have the Chevy emblem with that Nova by Chevrolet emblem, which kind of matches, you know, the one that's on the Nova on the back, except that this one's an original 1974 emblem, and that one's an aftermarket one, so it looks kind of different, and it's all chrome. It doesn't have any black. And on the 74 emblems, they had black all around the letters. So you can see there, it's all black around the letters and around the by Chevrolet. So I bought that aftermarket, and remember I stated I like black, red, and a little bit of chrome or silver. Well, that's the chrome, you got the black, and there's the red. So it follows with the theme that I wanted for this car. And that goes for, you know, a lot of parts of the car. So what did I use that storage compartment for? So let's just give you a nice look at the storage compartment before I open it and show you what's in there. So it's just basically a door. And if you watch that video, episode 126 from my old videos, I had that problem with getting this sturdy. I wanted to be able to put something on here and not worry about this, you know, bowing. I wanted it to support all kinds of weight. Well, in the end, I did figure it out, and well, that's how thick the door is. And over here, there's a lip all the way around. So when that door closes, it's solid. There's nothing that's gonna bend it. So this is actually a shelf panel, and so the shelf panel is actually made to support all kinds of weight. So I thought this was a good, you know, a good thing to use for my door, and it worked out perfectly. So what do I got back here inside? Well, I got a jack, a scissor jack. I have, you know, some lights here, a really bright light. I have a torque wrench with a die, you know, with one of those sockets for, you know, specific for my wheels. Piece of wood so that I can put it on top of here, so that when I, you know, jack up my car, I'm protecting my subframe or wherever I'm jacking up, you know, wherever I'm putting the jack. I got, you know, some rags in here, some wire ties, little toolbox there. It's just, you know, just a little toolbox, just with a couple sockets or whatever. So, and then over here, just an emergency, you know, outlet converter, because you never know. I do use this car for long distance driving. It is a cruiser, so I wanted to add that in there in the trunk, you know, just in case I needed to power something up, because you never know. So, and of course I have some gloves in there, you know, and then I could put a whole bunch of other stuff in there. That's the whole purpose of this storage compartment, to just put things in there in case I need it. So depending on where I'm going, you know, I'll put some more tools in there, you know, I'll put a hammer in there, or I'll put, you know, an impact in there, whatever I can fit in there, and of course use for the specific road trip that I'm going to be taking. And that's what it's for. And of course it closes, and you know, it doesn't hinder me from putting stuff on top of it. And I'm going to show a clip right now, you know, in case you guys wonder how much stuff can fit in this trunk. Well, we can fit a lot. Obviously, you saw in the beginning of this video, you could fit me in the trunk. And that was me in the trunk along with a spare tire. And here's the spare tire right here. So you can see there, it's just basically a Corvette donut. And, you know, I just went and bought a brand new rubber, and the size of the tire itself, the diameter of the spare tire matches my real wheels, because I do have posi traction now. And so, you know, it has to, you know, I don't want one tire smaller than the other. So that was the problem with the original Nova spare. I wanted a bigger spare. So that's basically what I got in there. And this here, it's a cover. Let's see if I can get you guys to see it. So basically it's, you know, and you can see there, it's basically a tire cover. And though I don't have it silver, it's not silver,
It's white, but you can see the theme, black and red, and of course it has a white, you know, and white here, white little stripe. So I found that on eBay. Oh man, it was a lucky find. It was actually a vintage spare tire cover. So it came off of an old car. I can't remember what car it came from, but it was definitely a classic, and I was so fortunate to actually find that, which matches my trunk. So that's basically the setup. I mean, it'll fit a lot of stuff, and I'm gonna tack on a little bit of a video, a little clip that I took when I went on a shopping run for my Thanksgiving, you know, turkey and other stuff. And I had the spare tire in there, and then of course I had a whole bunch of other stuff. So I'm gonna tack that on there so you can kind of get an idea of how much stuff can fit inside that trunk. I'm gonna do that right now. So here's a shot of my trunk after a grocery run, so you can see how much I can fit in that trunk. And so as you can see, that butterball, that's for Thanksgiving. So you can see a lot of stuff can fit in the trunk, and I don't have to worry about the curves and the bumps and the valleys that the trunk had before. And I still got my spare tire under all of that. So that's it right there, just to give you an idea of how much stuff you can actually fit in that trunk, which is quite a lot. So there you have it. You kind of get an idea of how much stuff can fit in there. And if I didn't have the spare tire in there, I can fit a whole bunch more stuff, because obviously the spare tire takes some space. But without that spare tire, or even if I flip the spare tire, you know, upside down where the dish portion of the spare tire is facing up, I can put some stuff in the dish. But depending on what I do with the car, if I'm gonna go on a road trip or whatever, I put the spare tire in. If I'm just gonna go around town, get groceries, you know, sometimes I'll take the spare tire out. If I'm gonna be, you know, making a food run or a grocery run with a lot of stuff and I need the space, then I'll take the spare tire out. So depending on what I'm gonna use the car for, I decide whether I want to keep the spare tire in there or not. So now, the back here, the big back door, what's behind there? Well, we already know that there's a battery back there. But before I get to opening the door, if you look at the door, you can't see any handles. And that's the whole point in the handle that I chose. So if you go down, there you go, the handle starts to show. So of course it's painted black, and you really can't see the handle when someone's looking at it. And that's the whole thing. I didn't want to see any handles. I mean, this handle right there, you know, is a little pull handle. And obviously I needed some kind of handle there. I didn't want a hole, but this serves as a hole because I can stick my finger in there and then open the door. And then of course the handle just kind of snaps back into place. But the back door, I didn't want any handles. So grab it from here and you pretty much pull. So you can see the handle there. It's just basically, you know, like a little, I don't know, like a little C channel. That's basically what it is. And you could just use a C channel. So what's back here? Well, we already know there's a battery there because I showed that I put that battery tray right there. And then of course I got a 12-inch subwoofer, and then of course over here I got my amplifier. Now the subwoofer, I'm gonna leave a link down in the bottom in the description box. The subwoofer I actually cut specific for this trunk. And of course, with keeping in mind the specific cubic feet that it needs for it to operate. And you gotta get a measurement to get the internal volume correct. And this trunk, the chair, the back seat, kind of has, if you have a Nova, the back seat actually goes at an angle. So if you can kind of see, this box has the same angle, so that when I put it in there, I can get this box to fit in nicely. And the link that I'm going to put in the description box allows you to kind of get the measurements you want and still maintain the internal volume correct. And so that's why I'm going to link it down, because it proved to be quite helpful when I was designing this box, because I wanted it to fit as far back as possible. And if it was just a straight up, you know, square box, well, I wouldn't have been able to get that, because the top of the box would have hit the top of the seat, and then I would have had all this, I would have all that wasted internal volume. So I wanted to take advantage of the internal volume, so I kind of angled the box, so that way the inside is also angled internally, and it provides a little bit more volume. So that's pretty much what I got inside that area. Okay, so let's move on to the tail panel. This here is my access panels, and these access panels is same with the door. I didn't want any handles, so this has touch handles. Basically, you press it in, and then it just pops right out, and then you can take it out, and then you can see my wiring there, and we have my tail lights. So I can change the bulb. Here's one, there's the other, and there's a piece of wood here that stops it there. And then you can see the carpet is cut out for that access panel to fit in. So when I'm inserting it back in place, it goes wedged in between the carpet and that piece of wood. You can kind of wedge it in there, and then it's magnetic, and we just kind of press it in and it locks into place. So that's for both of these doors. No handles whatsoever. So we got a clean trunk. Now, the one thing that I didn't explain was, how do I put this thing together? Now, these hinge cases, I actually built them in the car, and they're attached to the support for these hinges. So let's show you that right now. So there it is. So this is the hinge support from the factory. These are my pieces of wood that's attached to this, and this actually gets screwed into that hinge support, which of course is for that. And so when I installed this, I knew that that had to be installed permanently into the car. And so I built the case, the hinge case, and I did kind of explain, in case you guys didn't understand it when I was trying to explain it. This hinge case has to be built in the car when I was putting it together, and actually upholstered halfway, and then finished the upholstery work after I screwed it into place, because there's some screws back here. And remember, I'd stated in an earlier video that this foam was to prevent me from seeing the screws that I actually placed on that hinge case. So you got a nice, you know, smooth finish. So I had to actually build that in place. So first that goes in. The door, you can put it in, you know, afterwards or you know, at the end. But the piano hinge, well, the carpet is not glued down in that area, because the whole carpet is glued to the floor, including, you know, glued to the door. But right here, there's an area right here, you can kind of see, you know, an imprint of the line that goes across here. There's no glue past this line, so that I'm able to lift this up and access the screws. See if we can get that in there. Access the screws that are holding the this hinge, this piano hinge, to the door. If I ever wanted to remove the door, which, why would you ever, this focus, why would you ever remove the door, right? But I wanted to make sure that in the event that I wanted to remove the door, I could. So you can put the door in, or you don't, you know, you can wait to the end. But the hinge cases go on first. Then the tail panel. Now the tail panel is held on by just one screw. So there's a screw there, and it's screwed right through. See if we can kind of, can we get it? Yeah, can see there, it's screwed right through this latch thing. I don't know what you call that, but you know, it's for the trunk latch. And that's the only thing that's holding this panel in until you put the side panels in, because the side panels are actually cut in such a way that when they get installed, it puts pressure on this side of the tail panel cover and obviously on the other side. So we got 3 points of support for this tail panel. So we got the one in the middle, and then we got one on either side. So this is not going anywhere. And then that leads me to the actual side panels, which has to be installed last. And if you ever wanted to take it apart, it has to be removed first. Now, I don't have side markers. And so this portion of the video, I'm going to try to explain, you know, as far as how to put this in, because if you guys, if anyone wanted to do this or try to duplicate this, put it in their trunk, they may have side markers. Now I did a side marker delete, so I don't have any side markers on the side of my Nova. So I never have to remove this panel. But if you needed to remove this panel, there's only one way to do it. So now, let's see if I could try to explain this. Let me first tack on a photo so you can see how it looks without that panel. Okay, so you saw there's, you know, a bunch of arrows or whatever. There's a piece of wood that goes here. There's one that comes up, and then there's one that's on top of this. So on the tail panel itself, let's get the light. On the tail panel itself, there's a piece of wood that's on the tail panel, but behind this side panel, there's one over here, and then there's one over here on the hinge case. Now this, out of all of these panels, that are the one that's here, the one that's here, and here, this is the only one that's removable. So to remove it, you have to open the door, stick your hand back there, and of course I have some wing nuts, and I unscrew the wing nuts, and then the little piece of wood can come out. That's basically just a stop. So it prevents the panel from going in. So that if you had something in the trunk and it's shifting around for whatever reason and it bangs up against this panel is not going anywhere. It's not going anywhere because I have support on all those. Now, what's holding the top? Well, nothing. Just basically here, along the bottom, and here is all that's needed to support it. But when I designed this, there's a lip right behind this portion of the trunk lip on the quarter panel. And so I actually cut this panel 1/4 inch longer. So we actually have this panel shoved up in there 1/4 of an inch. Basically, it comes up to right around here. And you know, if you look at your Nova, you'd see that there's a little space there. So that's basically what's allowing this to look clean and flush, because it actually goes up in there. It sticks up in there. Now, to install this, or to remove it, I remove the panel that's there, the little piece of wood that's going downwards. I remove that one, and then I take like a really thin Allen wrench or whatever, and I stick it under there, tilt it up so that now it's facing up like this, and then I pull. That allows this panel to move forward. Then I push this inward, and then of course remove the panel, you know, coming this way. To put the panel back in, you have to kind of angle it upwards in through this way, because obviously there's plenty of space on the side of the quarter panel to move that panel inward. So we stick it up in there, and the panel now is at an angle. Then we push the panel on the bottom in place, and then we take the stop that's supposed to go here, and we go behind the hinge case. We put the panel in and bolt it in place. Hopefully that made sense, but that's basically how this side panel gets removed and placed in place. So that's basically the setup, and as I stated, this is 5 years old, and
of course, as I was showing around, you probably noticed that there's a bunch of scratches and whatnot all over the panel. So you can see there. Well, I'm not worried about that. Why? Because this is painted with base coat, clear coat, and I put 3 coats of clear on there. If I wanted to take this to a car show and I wanted to, you know, make sure that I didn't have those scratches in there so that it looks all nice and pretty for a car show, all I gotta do is hit it with a buffer. And then those scratches disappear and it looks, you know, like if it's brand new again. The scratches are just rub marks. They're not scratches in reality, so you know, you can't feel it with your nail. You know, when I put things in the trunk, it kind of touches up against it, and that's why it makes these marks. You can see there. It just needs a little polish, and we're back to brand new again. But, you know, this car is a daily driver, cruiser, and so I do use the trunk. But because I painted it with base coat, clear coat, it's very easy to just buff it out, and I can buff it right in the trunk. I get in the trunk, as you can see, it holds lots of weight. I just get in there and buff away, and it looks like new again. But yeah, I wanted to make sure you guys see that. I didn't make it look pretty. I didn't like touch it up just for this video. I wanted you to see exactly how it looks today. That's pretty much the setup. That's the trunk. It's been in use for 5 years, and I can put a whole bunch of stuff in that trunk. And of course, when I open the trunk, I'm representing that it's a Nova, and trunk looks way better than what it did when I first got the car, and it's nice and flat, and I can put a whole bunch of stuff in there. So there you have it. The trunk and the storage compartment is complete, and this trunk is now reborn. Hope you enjoyed. Thank you very much for watching.